Good day. In this video, I want to show you how to generate topics for your contemporary empirical research. Suppose you intend to carry out contemporary empirical research in your field of study or in your field as a scholar or as an academics. How do you get topics on recent issues, on trending issues or emerging developments in your field? First, you consider policy focus. And how do you look into that? You need to get reports, or you go to websites of organizations that report or that discuss issues concerning that line of research. Organizations, it could be maybe World Bank, standardized organizations that have proven to the society as a good reference point when it comes to the matter of interest. And of course, to even start with, you need to ask yourself, what is my interest? What exactly is your interest? Even in that your broad field of study, what is your interest? Are you interested in environmental pollution? Are you interested in population? Are you interested in gender inequality? Are you interested in forensic accounting? What is my interest? That's the first thing you ask yourself. Now, having defined your interest, you will now look into policy focus, especially at global, regional, or national levels, or the context of your research work. Having identified your specific interest, you now look out for policy focus. I recommend that you look out for policy focus in the last 5 to 10 years max, because for a particular issue to be trending, it should be the issue of interest to policymakers in the last 5 years. In fact, it should be the matter of concern on the table of policymakers, whether at national level, at international level, or regional level, as the case may be. After you have done that, you now ask yourself, how do I get reports, or where do I get reports? First, you identify your area of interest. Then you ask yourself, what is the context of this my interest? Then you ask yourself, how do I get reports relating to policies? Because now we are talking about policy focus. You really need to have access to what the policy makers are looking into. If the topic is that contemporary, policymakers should be looking into it, no doubt about that. So if suppose you want to research on something that relates to maybe inflation targeting, you ask yourself, which context? Is it at a national level context or global level context? Now, if it's at global level context, you can, or you might be bent on looking out for organizations that reflect on the global overview of inflation targeting. So that will inform, by the time you, in fact, when you go to Google, you can just type something like list of organizations that publish reports on inflation targeting. It will give you broad list of organizations, and you can now access each of those organizations to see whether the context reflects what you are interested to investigate. Immediately you confirm that, you will have access to different published reports, recent reports at that, because it's already a contemporary issue. Recent policy reports that will give you idea of the areas policymakers at that context, at that global context or national context, what the policymakers are looking into. Now, once you get that, you will read through different publish reports. They will give information as to what they are doing at the moment, the direction policies are taking at the moment, and that in itself will give you idea of what your topic should look like. For instance, you suppose you are interested in investigating um, maybe environmental pollution, or maybe we should pick something like forensic accounting. And now you now type on Google to say list of organizations that gives or publish reports on forensic accounting. It will bring list of organizations. You can now access those organizations and read through policies, information about practices, information about new trend of methodology or approaches that will inform your the way you will narrow down your topic to say, okay, I now want to look at forensic accounting in the context of public sector, or in the context of private organizations. By the time you read through policies, you will see the trajectory of policies in recent time on the discourse of forensic accounting. So to get idea of empirical research topic, contemporary empirical research topic, the first thing you look into is the policy focus. After that, you can also look at data reports, get data sets on that subject matter. You can overview trends of the data set by yourself. You can draw line chart of the data set. Look at the movements of some of the key variables, whether as this one moves up, the other one moves down. It will give you idea as to what can be the reason for the movement of this particular variable. If this particular variable is moving in such a significant way, what is the reason for it? That in itself can inform your specific area of research focus. It will now give you idea on what variables you are to interlink. Now, the third area or the third way of generating contemporary empirical research topic is to look at how theories has evolved over time. When you pick a particular contemporary issue, you want to overview theories on that particular subject matter. Get as many theories as possible on that particular subject matter. You want to look at, has there been a contention, has there been a flow of arguments with regards to this particular economic variable? What has been the theory? How does theory evolve? How has theory evolved over time? It will help you to know, okay, which theory is most recent, what is the standpoint of the most recent theory, how is it different from the previous theories, when last was a theory propounded with respect to this particular subject matter. So by the time you look at different theories, you look at different variables included in different theories, you look at the different assumptions of different theory, it will give you idea of what your empirical research can now focus on. The fourth, which is not going to be the last, but for the purpose of this video, that will be the last I'm going to share with us. But then the last one for this video is looking at empirical stance or contention or interconnectivity of empirical variable or variables, basically. Now, what do I mean by that? Suppose you want to research into inflation targeting. Now, to get idea of what is trending or how to structure your research topic in line with what is trending, you can now say, okay, in the last 5 years, what has been the variable that researchers has been relating with inflation targeting? Is it inclusive growth? Is it sustainable growth? Is it human capital development? Which of the variables in literature has captivated or captured the attention of researchers in the last 5 years? When you now pick, now you have established that inflation targeting is a contemporary issue, say monetary policy issue. Now you now want to look at empirical stance, connectivity of variables. You look at, okay, if I'm to pick inflation targeting, which other economic variable can I relate with it? By the time you overview maybe 30 to 40 empirical studies, recent empirical studies, it will give you idea of what other variable. Is it that they are looking at determinant of inflation targeting, or are they looking at a pattern, the pattern of inflation targeting? Okay, now suppose that's what they have been looking at. What is the context previous researches in recent time focused on? Is it that most of the studies in recent time focus on country-based overview of inflation targeting? If that is the case, can I do something new? Maybe I should focus on regional-based inflation targeting. To say, I'm not going to consider inflation targeting in the context of maybe China or India alone, or Ghana or South Africa or Germany. I want to look at the overview of inflation targeting in the context of maybe selected African countries, or you want to look at it in the context of strictly developed countries. Now you are now changing the trajectory of your own empirical research, and that in itself is the gap which of course will establish the significance of your study. So looking at empirical stance and interconnectivity of variables can be another means for you to generate research topic for your contemporary empirical engagement or your contemporary empirical researches. Having said this, I will advise that you look out for another video that will give you ideas on where to get recent empirical studies. Because if you need to begin to look at empirical stance, you really need recent empirical studies. And now, what do I mean by recent empirical studies? By scope, recent empirical studies should be max of 4 to 5 years into the past. Suppose we are in 2023 now, recent empirical studies should be studies conducted 2023, 2022, 2021, 2020, and 2019. Anything beyond that, we don't consider it to be recent. So for you to look at empirical stance, how do you get those materials? Look out for this video. I'm going to post it anytime soon. I will give you different links where you can get recent empirical study, quality empirical studies at that. And I remain Akimode Damilola Olatunde, the lead analyst at Potential Miners International. Our focus at the platform is to really dish out simplified research education for students at undergraduate level, postgraduate level, and for scholars, whether for the purpose of your papers or seminar work or maybe workshop. We'll be giving out information on researches and that will help you to put things into perspective. I look forward to seeing more of you. Stay tuned to this channel. God bless you.